All right, folks, Brandon Chapman with you today. It's the TD video for October 18th, 2021. And boy, what an interesting day in the market. I couldn't think of a creative title, so it said Cyclicals and Retail find support as utilities and healthcare lag. And they really kind of described today some big activity in some of these names that we'll go over. When I say big activity, I'm talking on the options market. But if you look at the ES futures, for example, we're just barely off our highs of the session after initially showing weakness. Now, when you start to look at the cash session, we're going to take a peek at the SPY here. And what you'll notice if we zoom in, we had Friday's kind of a spinning top, very small body, very small shadows. Today on the open, we gap lower below the low on Friday, but we rallied throughout the course of the day, finishing near the high of the session. It's called a bullish engulfing pattern. And boy, it looks like we are poised to really end up retesting our prior highs up there at 453.70-ish, 454. We'll delve a little more into the VIX here in just a minute. But as you look at the sectors, the best performing today was cyclicals. We'd already taken out our prior high. We're up another amount today, just continuing the bullish move here. Technology really starting to gain some momentum. As you look at the Nasdaq and the Qs, for example, a very nice day up nearly 1%. Makes sense given where technology and also communications are. Of course, one of the bigger stocks in that space is Facebook, which was up nearly 3%. We'll look at the activity there here in a minute. But as we circle back to the broader market, the question is, what becomes of this move? And it certainly looks like, as I mentioned, we may roll back and retest the highs. The question is, how do we do it? If you look at past moves, you'll notice we get a very fast start and a slow grind. A very fast start and a slow grind. Very fast start, and we kind of ground it out for a while. Then kind of saw some volatility before the retracement. As we look at the VIX right now, the VIX is scraping the bottom of the barrel down here close to around 16. The VIX was basically up slightly today despite the rally because of the volatility we're experiencing. But when you start to take a look at the next level, we're looking at skew. What you're seeing right now with skew is we're ticking up very, very strongly on on Thursday and Friday. We're all the way back up to 147. Anything above 130 is high. But when you're up in this area, what does it tell you? You're going to have a greater frequency of small up days with a very large potential down move building. And that's kind of what we're seeing with the VIX 3M. So we look at the term structure of the VIX and the 3-month VIX, and I have what's called a pairs ratio study here. All it does is take the ratio of the 3-month VIX and the 1-month VIX. And you'll notice right now that the 3-month VIX is 24% higher than the VIX. What this is pointing to is increased expectation of volatility in the near future. And what this is showing, very similar to past points, this has escalated along with skew very, very quickly on this rally. So while it does portend higher frequency of small up days in the future, we are building for a potential correction here. So inevitably, we just didn't clear the air as much as you would hope to see these levels remain lower for longer and hopefully build an increasingly bullish case. Maybe we're setting up for a nice rally here heading into the debt ceiling discussion in December. I mean, who knows? What we know right now is that expect to see more up days. There are areas that are going to show more strength than others. And that's really what we're looking for, right? Where's the strength? Where's the weakness? Now, in last week's video, I talked about EVs, so electric vehicles, or the periphery of electric vehicles. Today, fuel cell. So a couple of those names were fuel cell, for example. This was last Wednesday. We had XPEV. We had NEO. All of these stocks have been up very significantly over the course of the last several days. Since last Wednesday, we saw the activity. Today, we're seeing continued bullish activity in stocks like fuel cell. So if you look at the trade tab here, it's very focused on this weekly expiration. So if we look at volume and open interest and applied volatility, you'll see at the $8 call, and this is kind of rolled, and we saw it move out as the price continued to move higher here, all the way out to the 10 strike and even building in the 1050, just this expectation. So initially the $8 just off the open, if we zoom in here, was slightly out of the money. But as the price began to move higher and the price in that option began to move in the money, you just see kind of that gamma and building a further and further interest here. So this is one that expect to see some volatility this week. It may not necessarily follow through, but watch it. Look at that opening trade. See if we spike, we might pull back. If we can take out the high of the first hour, this might half hour rather, this might have some legs. So fuel cell. Another one to add to the list this week is plug, which gapped up last week, fell back. Today we're finding a degree of support, holding on to that low. For the most part, we did slip slightly below the low here and certainly below the low gap day, but we're setting up for a bullish bounce and maybe a retest of the prior highs up here about 36. Again, these are weekly expirations that are building in plug, but again, expect to see continued volatility this week in the CV space, particularly with oil prices rising, the implications of that on the vehicle selection, that kind of thing could be big. But you notice again here, right, 14,000 began to move out as the price continued to rally here. You'll see interest building out here all the way at 38 for this week's expiration. So 38's right up here. So again, this is one to look at for continued movement. One of the bigger stocks in the market is Facebook, and of course today you'll see with Facebook we're moving higher again, 3.26%. Today it was the October expiration, the 22 oct, and it was right here around the for Facebook, the 335. And again, what you're seeing is that began to move in the money. 58,000 open interest, 8,400. You'll see that interest build out at higher strikes as it moves in the money. So again, look at this potential volatility or this movement continuing. And again, maybe look at tomorrow right off the bat. You might have some active volume coming in the options market and some movement that first half hour or so. Or after the first half hour, you might look for a retracement and a breakout above that level and carry it, or maybe fade that first half hour. But again, this is something where you're going to see a continued potential volatility in Facebook this week, just kind of kicking it off with this week's option activity. Another stock here is Walmart. And this is one that I talked a lot about last week in my sessions on TheoTrade. We saw bullish activity. We kind of fell back on Wednesday, and then we began to rally on Thursday and Friday, and then again today. We're getting a nice engulfing pattern here as well, so you get the little pause. Now we're taking out the highs, we're engulfing. Where do you look at this thing going, right? This is the biggest question with regards to Walmart. What's the potential here? A couple ways you can come around and arrive at that. Number one is, what strike are they trading? Well, it's a 22 oct 143. It's not super far out of the money, but we might look at a near-term target of 143. You look at the prior move here. This is 135 to about 140, about $5.50 off of the low here. Gives you about 143.50, 144. That gets you about the 50% retracement of the downtrend. If you like fib retracements, you can kind of take this initial move as what? As a seed wave. You notice here 145. The trend may carry it back to 152 if this is a good holiday season. But again, initially looking at probably that 143.50, 144 range on Walmart. Another stock that's been around, seen a lot of activity in the last week and has continued today, it's AMD. And we're looking at a retest the prior high here as we take out the 61% fib. And again, on a nice solid move today. And again, it's all of it's really front loaded here on that 22 October expiration. It really began to pick up early around the 114 strike. And again, even spilling in here in the money a little bit further. But then you see how it's kind of rolling out 32,000 contracts at 117, 41,000 at 170, or 120 rather. That's kind of the dominoes you start to build as we start to tip. And all of a sudden the price begins to move. And so again, you'll kind of see this activity. You look intraday, how it sparks, and then we start to move to another level and another level. And as this volume is added here, again, it just gives you further indication of potential movement. Looks like we do have maybe a large mark on a close print here for 1.8 million shares. Not a huge deal, but anyway, just kind of disregard the mark on a close stuff anyway. So some of that volume is coming late on the session. Finally, on the bearish end, we've got Zillow. Okay. So Zillow did suspend their buying of homes. They had that kind of AI type thing that came in, it refurbished them, selling some homes below cost. And as a function, they're stopping some of the activity there. So kind of interesting on that one. But anyway, so as we look at the watch list here, look at the top names again, kind of targeting what? Facebook, Target, Tesla. So Wells Fargo, some banks in there. But again, you got a lot of technology. You've got Home Depot in the mix, Apple. You've got a lot of retail type names, Lowe's coming in here. You flip it around, you look at the opposite side again, and you start to see what? A lot of healthcare companies, MDT, BIB. I guess Disney's in the mix today, down 3%. Look at that support. But again, a lot of healthcare related names. And, again, yeah. So anyway, you're going to see some utilities here like a Southern, for example, Staples. And that's really what's taking up the tailpipe here today. And as you look at commodities, /CL, oil is now trading at 851. You're seeing some real bullish bets being way out there. The term structure of oil is still very, very favorable for oil at the moment. And it's one of those things, the backwardation is indicative of potential supply disruptions and shortages. As you look at /GC, gold just can't quite get out of its way as we fell on Friday. We're holding here today. There was a lot of bullish activity earlier in the week last week. Did a blog post on Thursday on the 7th. Got a nice pop out of it. I would expect if we see more of this follow through, we could see additional weakness in the dollar, which could push gold higher here today or going forward in the next week or so. Anyway, folks, that's today's session. We'll wrap it up. See you back tomorrow in the video, or I guess I'll be on next week. Thank you. Have a good one.